Welcome, champions, to the war-torn wilds of Azeroth. Today, we dive into the finale of the Witherbark Trolls saga. In the Fourth War, they strike at Stromgarde and beyond, their defiance burning bright. In the chaos of the Red Dawn, the clashes with the Mag'har, their final stand unfolds. Join us to uncover their desperate fight for survival. Battle for Azeroth. The battle for Stromgarde, and the Witherbark's role. The battle for Stromgarde, 33 years after the Dark Portal was opened, was a pivotal moment in the Fourth War. A global conflict sparked by escalating tensions between the Alliance and the Horde following the Burning Legion's defeat. Stromgarde, a strategically vital city in the Arathi Highlands, became a focal point of contention as both factions sought to control it. The Alliance, led by figures like Danath Trollbane, aimed to restore the city to its former glory, while the Horde, under Sylvanas Windrunner, sought to maintain their influence through outposts like Hammerfall and their undead allies such as Galen Trollbane. The Witherbark Trolls, despite their diminished state, remained active in the Arathi Highlands during this period. Their primary stronghold, Witherbark Village, had been reinforced, indicating a concerted effort to fortify their position against the encroaching forces of both the Alliance and the Horde. These reinforced defenses included stronger palisades, additional warriors, and Loa-based rituals to bolster their resolve. The village's strategic location in the Arathi Highlands allowed the Witherbark to continue their guerrilla-style raids, targeting both factions indiscriminately as they sought to disrupt the larger war effort and assert their claim to the region. The Witherbark's attacks on both the Alliance and Horde reflect their deep-seated distrust of outsiders, a trait rooted in their history of enmity with Stromgarde and their betrayal of the Horde during Thrall's reign. However, their aggression also made them a target for both factions, who viewed the Trolls as a destabilizing force in an already chaotic region. The Witherbark's raids, while disruptive, were a desperate bid to maintain relevance, as their resources and numbers were severely limited following their expulsion from the hinterlands and their defeat in Stromgarde's Mage District 32 years after the Dark Portal. Witherbark Speakers in Zuldazar. The appearance of Witherbark Speakers in Zuldazar, a region of Zandalar during the Fourth War, is a surprising development that suggests the tribe's influence extended beyond the Arathi Highlands, albeit in a limited capacity. Zuldazar, the capital of the Zandalari Troll Empire, was a major theater of the Fourth War, as the Zandalari allied with the Horde to counter the Alliance's naval incursions. The presence of Witherbark Speakers in Zuldazar indicates that the tribe sent emissaries or operatives to this distant land, possibly to forge alliances, seek aid, or pursue their own agenda amidst the chaos of war. The Witherbark Speakers, likely witch doctors or spiritual leaders, were representatives of the tribe's interests, carrying the authority to negotiate or conduct rituals on behalf of their people. Their presence in Zuldazar could be tied to the Witherbark's prior allegiance to Hakar the Soulflayer, as the Zandalari had their own complex history with Dark Loa and blood magic. The Speakers may have also sought to reconnect with troll factions sympathetic to their cause, or to tap into Zandalar's ancient spiritual traditions, to bolster their tribe's flag and fortunes. Alternatively, they could have been sent as mercenaries or opportunists, exploiting the war to gain resources or favor. However, the Witherbark's involvement in Zuldazar was limited, given their reduced numbers and focus on survival in the Arathi Highlands. The Speaker's presence may have also been a last-ditch effort to find allies or a sign of the tribe's desperation to project power beyond their shrinking territory. Their activities in Zuldazar would have put them in conflict with both Horde and Alliance forces operating in the region, further cementing their reputation as a rogue faction. Nimar the Slayer and the Witherbark's defiance. Among the Witherbark's ranks, Nimar the Slayer emerged as a particularly notorious figure during the Fourth War. Described as a priority target due to his dangerousness, Nimar was a formidable warrior or a possible assassin, known for his lethality and ability to take down numerous fighters. His prominence suggests he was a key leader and champion within the Witherbark, rallying their forces for raids against the Alliance and Horde. Nimar's actions made him a focal point for both factions, who sought to eliminate him to weaken the Witherbark's military capacity. Nimar's reputation as a slayer who took many fighters with him in death implies a dramatic final stand during a targeted assault on Witherbark Village in the Arathi Highlands. His death would have been a significant blow to the tribe, further depleting their leadership and morale. The focus on Nimar as a priority target underscores the Witherbark's continued threat, despite their weakened state, as their guerrilla tactics and fierce resistance made them a persistent nuisance in the region. Collapse of the Boulderfist Alliance. The Witherbark's alliance with the Boulderfist Ogres, which had been a key partnership in their efforts to counter the Horde's Hammerfall outpost, disintegrated in 33 ADP. The presence of Witherbark trolls in the cages within the Boulderfist Ogre's den suggests a betrayal or falling out between the two groups. This breakdown stemmed from mutual distrust, as both the Witherbark and Boulderfist were fiercely independent and prone to prioritizing their own interests over the other. The Ogres, known for their brutality and opportunism, possibly turned on the Witherbark to curry favor with the Horde, seize their resources, or eliminate a rival in the Arathi Highlands. The imprisonment of Witherbark trolls in the Ogre Den is a stark symbol of the tribe's decline. Once allies in a shared struggle against the Horde, the Witherbark now found themselves betrayed and humiliated, further isolating them in a region where they were already surrounded by enemies. This development would have strained the tribe's resources and morale, as the loss of the Boulderfist Alliance deprived them of the raw manpower that had bolstered their raids. The Thanos Blightcaller's claim and the Witherbark's status. The Thanos Blightcaller, prominent Forsaken champion and Sylvanas Windrunner's right hand during the Fourth War, claimed that the Witherbark tribe had been wiped out in the hinterlands by the Forsaken, with only the remnants in the Arathi Highlands surviving as a broken tribe. This statement, made in the context of the ongoing war, reflects the Forsaken's perspective on their earlier conquest of the hinterlands 28 years after the Dark Portal opening, where they seized Nimar Village and drove the Witherbark from the region. Nathanos' characterization of the Witherbark tribe as a broken tribe is both accurate and propagandistic. The tribe's expulsion from the hinterlands, the loss of key settlements like Shadra'Lor to the Vile Branch, and their defeats in Stromgarde, notably the Mage District in 32 ADP, had severely diminished their numbers and influence. By 33 years after the Dark Portal opening, the Witherbark's presence in the Arathi Highlands, centered around the reinforced Witherbark Village, was a last stand for a tribe on the brink of extinction. However, Nathanos' claim may also serve to downplay the Witherbark's continued threat, as their raids and the presence of figures like Nimar the Slayer demonstrate that they were still capable of inflicting damage. The Broken Tribe label underscores the Witherbark's precarious position. With their leadership decimated, Ojimba's death in 32 ADP, and Nimar's death eventually, their alliance is fractured, and their territory reduced to a single region. The Witherbark were a shadow of their proud forest troll tribe that once split from the Amani Empire. Yet, their persistence in attacking both the Alliance and Horde shows their refusal to surrender, driven by a deep-seated desire to reclaim their ancestral lands and defy their enemies. Cultural and strategic implications. The Witherbark's actions during the Fourth War highlight their resilience, but also their strategic short-sightedness. Their raids on both the Alliance and Horde, while consistent with their isolationist and vengeful nature, alienated potential allies and made them a target for annihilation. The presence of Witherbark Speakers in Zuldazar suggests a fleeting attempt to expand their influence or seek new allies, but their limited resources and focus on the Arathi Highlands likely prevented this from yielding significant results. The collapse of the Boulderfist Alliance further isolated the Witherbark, leaving them without the external support needed to counter the superior forces of the Alliance and Horde. The imprisonment of Witherbark trolls in ogre cages is a humiliating reminder of their fall from power, contrasting sharply with their earlier status as a formidable force allied with the old Horde and Hakar's cult. The loss of leaders like Nimar the Slayer further eroded their ability to mount effective resistance, as the tribe lacked the cohesion and resources to replace such figures. Culturally, the Witherbark's continued devotion to their Loa and forest troll traditions sustained them through these hardships. Rituals in Witherbark Village, invoking Loas like Shadra or others, would have bolstered their resolve, even as their spiritual heartland, Shadra'Lor, remained in Vile Branch hands. However, the repeated defeats and loss of sacred sites may have also led to a crisis of faith, with some trolls questioning the Loa's favor, or turning to darker powers, as they did with Hakar in the past. Legacy in Azeroth. The Witherbark trolls remain a hostile presence in the Arathi Highlands during the Fourth War, particularly in the context of the Battle for Stromgarde warfront. Those who venture close to Witherbark Village encounter them as enemies, where they fight alongside their remaining warriors and witch doctors. Those who go there to fight them often do so to neutralize their raids or eliminate key figures like Nimar the Slayer, reflecting their status as a persistent but manageable threat. The Witherbark story during the Fourth War is one of defiance in the face of extinction. Their reinforced village, raids on both factions, and fleeting presence in Zuldazar demonstrate a refusal to fade quietly, even as their numbers dwindle and their enemies grow stronger. And Thanos Blightcaller's claim of their annihilation in the hinterlands and their broken status in the Arathi Highlands captures their tragic arc. A tribe that once rivaled the Amani Empire, now reduced to a remnant fighting for survival in a world that has largely passed them by. The Witherbark's fate serves as a microcosm for the broader struggle of Azeroth's forest trolls, caught between their ancient traditions and the relentless advance of modern powers. Their story, marked by betrayal, loss, and unyielding resistance, underscores the cost of isolation and the endurance spirit of a people determined to fight, even against insurmountable odds. The War Within. The Mag'har clans and Hammerfall. The Mag'har clans, group of orc clans from the alternate Draenor who remained uncorrupted by demonic influences, were integrated into the Horde after their arrival on Azeroth. By 42 years after the Dark Portal opened, Horde leadership, seeking to provide the Mag'har with a stable foothold, granted them Hammerfall, a fortified outpost in the Arathi Highlands, originally established during the Second War. Hammerfall's strategic location made it a key base for the Horde's operations in the region, but it also placed the Mag'har in direct proximity to the Witherbark trolls, who had long contested the area around their stronghold, Witherbark Village. The Mag'har, led by Overlord Gaera, daughter of Durotan and a fierce warrior in her own right, sought to establish a new home and contribute to the Horde's efforts in the Arathi Highlands. However, the Witherbark trolls, already hostile to the Horde due to past betrayals and conflicts, notably their expulsion from the hinterlands and their failed assault on Stromgarde, viewed the Mag'har presence as an encroachment on their territory. The Witherbark's guerrilla tactics, raids, ambushes, and hit-and-run attacks made them an ongoing annoyance to the Mag'har, disrupting their efforts to fortify Hammerfall and integrate into Azeroth's volatile political landscape. The Witherbark's aggression towards the Mag'har stemmed from a combination of territorial disputes and their deep-seated distrust of outsiders. Hammerfall, located near Witherbark Village, represented a direct challenge to the trolls' control over the southern Arathi Highlands. The Mag'har, with their military culture and disciplined warriors, were a formidable foe, but the Witherbark's knowledge of the terrain and their history of resistant Horde incursions made them a persistent threat. The Red Dawn and Witherbark attacks. 42 years after the Dark Portal opened, the Arathi Highlands became a hotbed of intrigue due to the scheming of the Red Dawn, a mysterious faction that stirred conflict in the region. While the exact nature of the Red Dawn is not fully detailed, it appears to have been a catalyst for chaos, manipulating factions to destabilize the area for unknown purposes. The Witherbark trolls, already prone to aggression, capitalized on this unrest to launch attacks on human settlements within the Arathi Highlands, such as those tied to the remnants of Stromgarde and other minor outposts. These attacks were consistent with the Witherbark's long-standing enmity towards humans, dating back to their conflicts with Stromgarde and the Arathi people during the Troll Wars, and beyond. The human settlements, weakened by years of war and recent struggles of the Fourth War, were vulnerable targets for the Witherbark's raids. Trolls aimed to disrupt human rebuilding efforts, seize resources, and reassert their claim to the Arathi Highlands, which they viewed as their ancestral lands. Simultaneously, the Witherbark clashed with the Mag'har at Hammerfall, escalating their conflict with the Horde. These skirmishes were small-scale, but frequent, with the Witherbark warriors and witch doctors ambushing Mag'har patrols or supply lines. The trolls' tactics, honed over centuries of guerrilla warfare, allowed them to inflict damage despite their reduced numbers. However, their attacks on both human settlements and the Mag'har stretched their resources thin, making them vulnerable to counterattacks and manipulation by other factions. The Syndicate's involvement and betrayal. The Syndicate, a criminal organization composed of human rogues and bandits with ties to the fallen nobility of Alterac, entered the fray as part of the Red Dawn's schemes. The Syndicate, known for their opportunistic and treacherous nature, were instructed to attack the Witherbark trolls and plant evidence implicating the Horde as the aggressors. This plot was designed to sow discord between the Witherbark and the Horde, potentially escalating their conflict and weakening both factions to the benefit of the Red Dawn or its unseen orchestrators. The Syndicate's plan, however, backfired spectacularly. The Witherbark, hardened by years of warfare and deeply suspicious of outsiders, captured the Syndicate agents sent to attack them. The Trolls subjected these prisoners to torture in an attempt to extract information and revenge for the incursion. The Witherbark's brutal treatment of the Syndicate agents shows their ruthless approach to enemies and their desperation to maintain control in a region increasingly dominated by stronger factions. The torture involved traditional troll methods, such as ritualistic mutilation and Loa-inspired curses, further cementing the Witherbark's fearsome reputation. The Syndicate's failed scheme highlights the complexity of the Arathi Highlands' political landscape 42 years after the Dark Portal. The Red Dawn's manipulation suggests an attempt to exploit the region's existing tensions, using the Witherbark's aggression and the Horde's presence as pawns in a larger game. However, the Witherbark's capture of the Syndicate agents disrupted this plan, inadvertently drawing the attention of the Magcar and setting the stage for a decisive Horde response. Overlord Gaera's response. Overlord Gaera, as a leader of the Magcar clans, took decisive action to address the Witherbark threat and the Syndicate's involvement. Recognizing the need to stabilize the region and assert the Magcar's authority, Gaera ordered the forces to liberate the Syndicate prisoners and deliver a crushing blow to the Witherbark. This dual objective served both practical and strategic purposes. Rescuing the Syndicate agents could yield valuable intelligence about the Red Dawn's plans, while bloodying the Witherbark would weaken their ability to threaten Hammerfall and deter future attacks. The liberation of the Syndicate prisoners involved a targeted assault on Witherbark Village or another troll stronghold where the captives were held. The Magcar, with their disciplined warriors and shamanistic support, would have been well equipped to overpower the Witherbark's defenses, especially given the Trolls' diminished numbers. The operation may have also included Horde mercenaries, who often serve as elite operatives in such conflicts, ensuring the mission's success. The order to bloody the Witherbark suggests a brutal and decisive strike, aimed not only at freeing the prisoners, but also inflicting significant casualties and destruction. The Magcar targeted Witherbark leaders, warriors, and infrastructure, such as totems, ritual sites, and other encampments, to cripple their ability to mount further raids. Gaera's strategy was to send a clear message. The Witherbark's aggression would not be tolerated, and Hammerfall was a fortified bastion that could withstand their attacks. Aftermath and Gaera's assessment. In the aftermath of the Magcar operation, Gaera expressed confidence that the Witherbark had been cowed and would not stray from their village for some time. This assessment detailed the success of the Horde's counterattack, which left the Witherbark reeling from the loss of warriors, resources, and morale. The destruction inflicted on Witherbark Village, combined with the psychological impact of facing the Magcar's disciplined forces, forced the Trolls to retreat and regroup, temporarily halting their raids. Gaera's belief that the Witherbark would remain confined to their village suggests a strategic victory, but also acknowledges the Trolls' resilience. Despite the repeated defeats, expulsion from the hinterlands, the loss of Ojimba and Stromgarde, and the death of Nimar the Slayer, the Witherbark continued to survive in the Arathi Highlands. Their ability to reinforce Witherbark Village prior to the Fourth War and their persistent raids demonstrate a stubborn refusal to be eradicated, even as their numbers and influence dwindle. However, Gaera's optimism may have underestimated the Witherbark's tenacity. Forest trolls, deeply tied to their Loa and ancestral traditions, often draw strength from their spiritual beliefs and cultural identity. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, the Witherbark's history of surviving catastrophic losses, such as their expulsion from the hinterlands and their failed alliances with the Boulderfist ogres and Hakar's cult, suggests that they could regroup and resume their raids in time, albeit on a smaller scale. Cultural and strategic implications. The Witherbark's actions 42 years after the Dark Portal reflect their ongoing struggle to maintain relevance in a region dominated by more powerful factions. Their attacks on human settlements and the Magcar were driven by a combination of territorial ambition, vengeance, and desperation. The Red Dawn's manipulation of the Syndicate to provoke the Witherbark underscores the Trolls' vulnerability to external schemes, as their isolation and aggression make them easy targets for exploitation. The collapse of their alliance with the Boulderfist ogres, as witnessed by the Witherbark Trolls being caged in ogre dens, left the tribe without external support, further isolating them. The torture of Syndicate agents, while a display of strength, also alienated potential allies and drew the ire of the Mag'har, reinforcing the Witherbark's status as a pariah faction. Their reliance on guerrilla tactics and Loa-based magic, while effective in small-scale conflicts, proved insufficient against the organized might of the Mag'har and the broader Horde. Culturally, the Witherbark's continued devotion to their Loa sustained them through these hardships. Witherbark Village, as their last major stronghold, would have been a center for rituals and ceremonies to invoke the favor of Loas like Shadra or others, seeking guidance or strength to endure their losses. However, the repeated defeats and losses of sacred sites like Shadra lore drained their spiritual cohesion, with some trolls questioning the Loa's favor or turn into darker powers, as they did with Hakar in the past. Legacy in Azeroth. The Witherbark trolls remain a hostile presence in Arathi Highlands, with the Witherbark Village serving as their primary base. The events 42 years after the Dark Portal, including the Mag'har's counterattack and the Red Dawn's scheming, add depth to the Witherbark's narrative, portraying them as a beleaguered but defiant tribe caught in a web of larger conflicts. The Witherbark's clashes with the Mag'har and their role in the Red Dawn's schemes highlight their tragic arc. A once proud tribe, splintered from the Amani Empire, now reduced to a remnant fighting for survival. Gaea's victory may have temporarily cowed the Witherbark, but their history of resilience suggests they could re-emerge as a threat, although a diminished one. The loss of their alliance with the Boulderfist, the deaths of key leaders, and the Forsaken's earlier conquest of the hinterlands paint a grim picture, yet the Witherbark's persistence in Witherbark Village underscores their unyielding spirit. The Witherbark story, 42 years after the Dark Portal, is a testament to the enduring struggle of the Forest Trolls in a world dominated by the Alliance, Horde, and external forces like the Red Dawn. Their defiance, while admirable, has come at a steep cost, leaving them as a broken tribe, fighting to preserve their identity and territory against insurmountable odds. That's the final chapter of the Witherbark Trolls saga, a tribe broken yet defiant to the end. I'm Halakdan, and this concludes our journey through their rise, fall, and last stand. Subscribe for more World of Warcraft lore adventures. Like, share, and comment down below what your favorite troll tribe is. Until the next time, may the Loa guide your path.